Meeting to order. It is Monday, September 15th, 2025 at 1:30. We are live in the Monterey room at the Government Center in Salinas. We are also live from the District 4 County Supervisor Office in Marina, as well as on Zoom. Supervisor Luis Alejo and myself, Wendy Radosky, are present, and this is our Health, Housing, Homelessness, and Human Services Committee of the Monterey County Board of Supervisors. We will ask if there are any additions or corrections to our agenda today.
There are none.
All right, and then we'll open it up for public comment. Is there anyone with us today who would like to speak, share public comment for items that are within the purview of the committee's jurisdiction, but not otherwise listed on the agenda today? If you could raise your hand or approach the podium so that we can hear your comments today. We're glad to have you with us.
No
I'm not seeing any hands raised. Is there anyone in the audience? I see you, Wes. Thanks for joining us.
Okay. Hi, Wes Weiss, Salinas Monterey County Homeless Union. Just checking in a little bit about the Pajaro River sweep, cleanup. You know, I mean, we have this encampment resolution set that's supposed to protect people that are being displaced. There was about 150 people along the river that basically were told you got to go. You know, it was Monterey County, Watsonville, and County of Santa Cruz. But yet there's no alternative. So what happens to these people? Well, you can't show me your paper of a lease, which is why you're here. We don't have to ask you to show me your paper because obviously you don't have one. So that means we have to take everything you got every time we see you. And that cycle was supposed to be the promise of this encampment resolution policy and encampment resolution set from the CHSP. Yet we still seem to be doing the same cycle. Almost everyone from those 150 were just told to leave. I mean, maybe offered services, but not attained. So since they didn't get it, where do they go? Nowhere, just keep going. And so we'll find you tomorrow and we'll take all your stuff again. This is not a policy that I can appreciate. The numbers will come out better tomorrow for the outreach coordination team meeting that they're having tomorrow in the Hayward room, United Way of Monterey County at 9:30 a.m. I would encourage people to come. You got to go in person, and it is open to the public. So, I mean, when is the rubber really going to meet the road? When are we going to actually say what we mean and mean what we say and follow through with the delivery of fruition of, I mean, whatever, undocumented or not, they're citizens, they're residents, they deserve more respect than we're giving them. They have constitutional inalienable rights, life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, food, clothing, shelter, and without that stuff, running water and electricity. If we're not doing that, then we're not going toward fruition of service or a mission statement. We're just collecting money, and that's money laundering, and legal liability offset is not acceptable.
Thank you for your comments, and thank you for your vigilance and being a voice, Wes. We do appreciate you. Is there any other public comment from anyone in the chambers today?
No one else in chambers.
No one else in chambers. Okay, I didn't see any other hands raised. All right, we will close public
Madam Chair,
comment.
Just in response to Wes's comments,
Yeah,
I'm the chair of the Pajaro Valley Regional Flood Management Agency, one of my other hats. But we got a good report from Dr. Strudley about the cleanup on the Pajaro River that was enlightening for the public because there were serious dangers. There was a lot of major obstructions in an area that is likely to have water flow at the next storm in December. That's always posed a risk to residents who are living along the river. But the agency is doing vegetation cleanup, and some of those encampments were interfering with the ability of maintenance workers to be able to do that work. And it's going to be the case from now until that levee project is completed. I'm glad that we're in a couple months. This tiny homes village will open up there on the Watsonville side to provide some options for the residents. I know that there's already a list of people wanting to go into those services, so I appreciate the outreach work that got done. But hopefully, just as a point of information, we might want to invite Dr. Strudley to do the presentation because the pictures say 1,000 words about, there was some digging into some of those river channels, caves. One was 10 feet in, so they pose a danger not only to the people living in them, but also to the safety of and maintenance and strength of the levees. So anyways, I would just invite that as just a response to Wes, is to get that presentation from Dr. Stradley, perhaps on Zoom.
Very human response.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, just it does sound like there's more conversation, because we do have an encampment resolution policy. It does sound like there may be more happening in this particular situation, and there's multiple venues where these conversations are taking place. And maybe just an update on how the encampment resolution policy is being implemented, where there are challenges, and where just an update on that policy might be something that we could ask for a presentation on at a future meeting here, because I do know that that's a lot of work went into that, and it remains, I think, one of those challenging spaces of work. Roxanne, you've got your hand up, so let's, we have a couple other things on the agenda today, so I think this is worthy of a little bit of conversation. Roxanne.
Just for a point of clarity, it sounds like there's two requests. One is for an update from PERFMA, and the other one is for an update on how the policy is rolling out. There will be overlay between both.
Sure, maybe we could have both, just a presentation, information provided at the same meeting on both of those points.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So with no other public comment, let's close public comment, and we can move on to approval of our action minutes. This is item number 1. Any comments or corrections on those, Supervisor Alejo?
None.
Okay, any public comment on these items? This is item number 1, our action minutes.
No comments via Zoom.
Okay, we can, I think, consider those approved by consensus and move on to our regular agenda, which is a presentation from the Health Department's Behavioral Health Bureau Hope Housing Marina program. And we have a whole crew of presenters with us today. And this is following the 1-year celebration of the Hope Housing project in Marina. And I just, I'll take the liberty of commenting as a longtime resident of Marina, and as the community of Marina, where we've had, thanks to McKinney-Vento land transfers, the opportunity to be home and host to a large number of McKinney-Vento homeless housing programs and services. I think it really has been a part of what has made the community of Marina the inclusive, caring, neighborly place that it has become, and really takes pride in being. And this property that was previously Pueblo del Mar and is now operating as transitional housing for Hope Housing is really, I think, I give credit to the programs that are occurring there. And the residents that have come through that property for helping to create the culture that makes Marina such a special community. So just lay the groundwork with that, but just I know that these things don't happen by chance. They happen because of a lot of work, and that just having the property doesn't make the program happen. The program happens because we've got incredible teams of folks that are working really hard. And so credit where credit's due, and we'll pass the floor to our behavioral health team here to present. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Supervisor Askew. And nice to be here today with you, Supervisor Alejo, and everyone else we have some amazing partnerships that have made this program possible. And thank you both for joining us for the 1-year celebration. We did update the slide deck that was submitted with the board report. We found a photo from the event that we wanted to include in the slide deck, so we added that at the end, and then we also made an edit on one of the earlier slides, which we can point out to you as we go. But
Hey,
before...
You can leave your camera there, but we normally don't have a public here during our county policy meetings, standing there.
Like, I'm not bothering you, man.
Yeah, but
And I'm not even
we don't
blocking
have-
your
we don't
field
have
of view
that.
or nothing, dude.
I'm sorry. What is the issue?
Wes is standing here in front of front of the dais here, and I'm just saying that normally the audience is sitting in the chairs. I don't mind him being on the side. I don't mind him leaving his camera here, but to be standing here during our policy committee is something we don't see in any of our other meetings.
And is it just to access the screen?
No, he's recording here in front of the panel, which I said, I don't mind him leaving his camera there, but to be standing here is something that we don't see in any of our meetings.
And I should be able to see you directly.
Yeah.
And do we have staff present?
Like-
Usually we have.
Like this isn't a regular board meeting, is what I've been
Wes,
told
you
before.
cannot just stand anywhere during our meetings. You can stand on the side.
I mean, seriously,
in the
why is
chairs.
this is so childish,
Because
man.
this is
Just,
not your meeting. This is
you're
not
the
your
one
meeting.
interrupting the
That's
meeting. I'm
the
not
public-
even trying to interrupt the
public
meeting.
seats are over there, not here, in front of
Homie.
us. Now you're standing in front of me.
Calling
in the
order
panel.
to the meeting.
And do you see that the only camera is the back of everybody's head? You don't even see any of it?
I'm gonna call security if you don't move to the side.
Wow.
We're gonna take a
Wow.
pause. We're gonna adjourn the meeting for a break if we can't call order to the meeting.
I'm gonna call security if he doesn't move to the side
So, but
or.
we typically, do we have counsel in the meeting with us
Right
today?
here.
Is the question I'm asking.
I mean, I think typically we have people standing here to provide videotaping or on that side, but not typically in the front.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna defer to County Counsel Stacey Fiata to provide direction as to where media is welcome to stand for the recording of this meeting. If we could have counsel provide that direction now,
Sir, or
and then we can
appreciate
continue
you
with this
standing here.
item.
And legally, that's really the requirement, legally, a standard?
I'm asking you to.
And I'm just asking the question. I will do it, out of being polite, but legally, I'm not sure that's a standard.
Legally, it is the answer.
I don't think so.
We have never had anybody, Wes.
Homie.
stand right in the
And
middle
if
and
my
interrupt the
colleague could
meeting.
just allow us to work this out through counsel in the room.
He's already
and
moved
we
to
can
the
then
side
proceed
so we
with
can
the
proceed.
meeting.
He's moved to the side so we're able to proceed.
Yeah, I just wanted to be able to see everybody, but that's all right.
All right, and through
Is
county
this okay?
counsel, is this an appropriate location?
Thank you,
for
appreciate it.
This is an appropriate location, yes.
This is
Let
an
me
appropriate
introduce
location. All right,
myself.
thank you. We can proceed now with the meeting. Thank you.
Okay, Melanie, Rhodes, Behavioral Health Bureau Chief, and I'm delighted to be here today to talk about our Hope Housing Marina program, which is Monterey County of Monterey's first behavioral health bridge housing program. Before I proceed into it, I would like to identify and recognize who's with me here today. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, sure. My name is Lara, Clayton. I'm the Behavioral Health Services Manager with the Housing and Homeless Services team with Behavioral Health Bureau.
And good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fabricio Chombo. I'm the Working Out of Class Assistant Bureau Chief for Behavioral Health Bureau.
Anna Folia, Sun Street Center CEO.
Casey Powers, Division Director of Program Services for Interim Inc.
And thank you so much for being here today in person. And I did just want to check online to see if anyone from Housing Authority maybe had joined by, they did ask for the Zoom link to be able to join today because, bringing this program to reality has been a effort that has included all of us. And Supervisor Askew, as you had mentioned, this program space is what was formerly known as Pueblo Del Mar and has been converted into what we now know as Hope Housing Marina. And essentially this program was able to be funded by DHCS Behavioral Health Bridge Housing Grant from the Budget Act in September 2022, Assembly Bill 179, that provided the funding for the program. And that funding runs through June 30th of 2027. And as you can see there from the point in time count information, it really highlights the need for housing programs like this here in our region, as 74% are experiencing unsheltered homelessness here in our region based on the last point in time count. And so being able to have these programs where we can house folks and then bring the services to them, the services and supports that they need to help them navigate, get connected to services, and then move on to permanent supported housing and other opportunities, whether they're an individual, an adult, or a family, a couple, has been truly meaningful. And we heard some testimonials at the 1-year anniversary event that were really touching, that really impacted and showed sort of the ripple effect of that, how, bringing that stability through housing, and then what can open up not only in terms of folks' health and wellness, but rebuilding of relationships, and then being able to move on to more permanent supported housing. So County Behavioral Health was awarded $11.3 million to provide the housing and services for folks experiencing homelessness with serious behavioral health conditions and substance use disorder. It included funding for capital improvements and operations. And behavioral health was not able to do that alone, so again, it was all done in partnership with our partners here, Sun Street and Interim, as well as with the Housing Authority who owns the property. So this is, again, located at the former Pueblo Del Mar site on the former Fort Ord, and the property is owned by Housing Authority with deed restriction to be used as recovery housing. And behavioral health is the primary, holds the primary lease, and then we sublease to the program participants and the families that are out there. So it's structured to be a 12-month lease, and then it can kick into a month-to-month, up to 24 months following that. Behavioral health is paying for, and this is one of the edits that we made to the initial slide deck, it's paying for the rent and the security deposits for the program participants, and then all of the participants out there are referred to the program through behavioral health. And Lara has done an amazing job with this, as this whole venture into housing is very new for behavioral health. And so, really it's taken us pulling together the partnerships and through our partners and Lara's subject matter expertise in this area to really make this vision a reality. We started accepting referrals July 1 of 2024. And then the first leases were signed August 28th of 2024. And so then we did just celebrate the 1 year of the program, and I think since we submitted this slide deck, we have some updated numbers as well that Lara is prepared to share. But really the vision of the program is to be a housing first recovery model, low barrier housing. It's a 55 unit facility with 2 bedrooms. It also has caveats there for family units. We have family units that can have a total of 4 maximum occupancy out there. And I believe we have about, Lara was telling me today, like 141 folks out there now. And we can share a little bit more about the composition of the participants out there. But the rent is really set up to be initially, like behavioral health is paying again for the deposits and the rent through the grant funding. But then part of this is helping folks get on their feet, get connected to services, and contributing to it as well. So rent is 30% of income, whatever that income happens to be, to help contribute. And so here's the goal. You'll see really what the goal of the overall program is. It's to provide that services and transitional housing to people experiencing homelessness who have been diagnosed with serious mental illness and/or substance use disorder, and to overcome barriers in accessing and maintaining long-term housing. So this is really meant as that stepping stone to get connected and have the services and supports they need to, again, be successful and address any of those underlying treatment issues as well. The criteria is here. So there needs to be an eligible applicant, right, which would be an adult 18 years and older, resident of Monterey County, and individuals experiencing homelessness who are or are at risk of homelessness, and diagnosed with a serious mental illness or a substance use disorder, or are a care program participant. So Behavioral Health Bridge Housing, BHBH, is the source of the funding for this. And as part of that, written into the grant funding is to prioritize care participants into this housing. And so I believe we're in the process of potentially having our first care program participant transition into the housing this week. And so to ensure that there's the safety in the community and that we're meeting all of the requirements for the use of the property and the funding streams, Hope Housing participants and their families, individuals are not eligible if they are a registered sex offender or have a history of fire starting or arson, or if there is a recent history of dangerousness or exploitative behaviors without concern for the safety of others. So really the exclusionary factors are related to safety for the community and all those that are out there in the housing and in the programs. The other thing is the individual does need to agree to follow the program rules, and they do sign program agreements, and they need to agree to follow the lease responsibilities. So what Behavioral Health did is we have contracted with Sun Street Centers and Interim, and Sun Street brings their expertise in housing services and navigation. And so all of the program participants are provided support with Sun Street Centers for the housing services like coaching, referrals to wraparound services, housing navigation. There's meals provided depending on the need as folks are transitioning from unsheltered status into housing and getting connected and on their feet. And Sun Street has contracted with Housing Resource Center to do that housing navigation piece, and Anna's here and really can speak more to the nuances of their role with the program. And then in addition to that housing component, there's the specialty services that are provided both by Sun Street for those seeking outpatient substance use recovery services, and then the specialty mental health services provided by Interim for those who are living in the community that have specialty mental health needs co-occurring with substance use as well. And so we're really bringing the program staff and services to them out in the community. And so the funding, the $11.3 million in BHBH grant funding, which runs through June 30th of 2027, we're actually expected to be to fully spend the funding by April of 2027. And then you can see from this slide here the breakdown of where that funding is going. 2.8 million of that has gone to the Housing Authority for infrastructure improvements to make improvements on the units at the Nancy Dodd Center, just throughout the community. I know there was roofing done, painting done, different improvements made in the Nancy Dodd Center and the individual units as well to get them to where we can rent them out to folks. And then also $3 million in rent and security deposits has also gone towards Housing Authority as they own the property. And then you'll see there the breakdown with the funding that is allocated for Interim and Sun Street for this duration of this grant to go to the different services. Alrighty, so as we're looking at the overall successes, and there's the numbers again have been updated, but to date, Hope Housing Marina has served It says here over 140 community members, but that was at the time of the writing of the board report and submitting this presentation. I think, what would you say they are today, Laura?
It's just a little bit higher. So right now, this is all together, we've served 99 adults, 45 minors and children.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a little higher. And we have some sort of in the works as well that have not
Always.
moved in yet. So we are technically full with a waiting list. And so we're constantly getting referrals, and the team's looking and managing that referral list. And we have had 15 households discharged, and 7 of those went on to obtain permanent housing. So that's definitely successful.
How many households got permanent housing already?
7.
7, great. Awesome.
Yeah. And so the other success was about establishing the resident council, and I'm sure Anna can speak to that. It's something that they do in a lot of their programs, as does Interim, in terms of having that engagement from the community, that buy-in from the community, and that leadership in the community. So those are all some of the successes. And as any new program, a new endeavor, we've also experienced challenges. This is the first project of this kind, and it's a very large project. So when we jumped in with like both feet, and did a big project here with lots of different partners. But that's, really I think a strength of the County of Monterey and our community is we do have great partnerships that we're able to come together, work together to figure out how do we make this work to best serve individuals in our community. So with it being the first behavioral health bridge housing program in the County of Monterey, and also the first project between the Behavioral Health Bureau and the Housing Authority, partnering in this way, that there has been a learning curve. I think when behavioral health, when we say certain words like case management, or we use different language in the treatment space and in the service world, we mean certain things. When we're talking in housing world, there may be some of the same terminology, but it might mean something very different. And so I do think that there's been a learning curve on both sides, with our housing partners, as well as within behavioral health and our treatment framework and mindset as a service provider for specialty mental health and drug Medi-Cal service delivery, that we've had to really look at how to effectively and efficiently communicate like what we're talking about, and making sure we're all on the same page and understanding. So working through some of those things. And then also, one of the challenges is we really have to look at sustainability long term, like what's the plan once the grant funding runs out. As stated earlier, we're projected to run out of those funds for the program in April of 2027. And so, that's just a consideration as well, because we're seeing a lot of good. We're doing a lot of good. We're helping a lot of folks. And then part of it is like, how do we really look at the long-term sustainability for the program to keep it going? Another point worth noting is, while in the BHBH grant, it does specifically call out that care court participants are to receive priority placement. What we've really found here locally, and I know we're slated to come here to do a presentation on care court in December or January, and so we'll be talking more specifically about that. But I did want to call it out now, is what we've seen locally is that the referrals that we've been getting for care court, those individuals have really needed a higher level of care, because, and the team can really speak to sort of the services and the setup of Hope Housing, but you really do need to have some independent living skills, some ability to live in a community setting, manage your own medication, some other things that in our experience to date with care court, we're seeing some of the folks coming through that program have needed a little bit more structure. And so this might be maybe a step down for them, but not necessarily the entry point for them. And with that program being new as well, we're still kind of working through that. So we may see more participants, but not at this time. So we do have some pending items, and we are really looking at taking our first year of experience with this program being live and trying to apply some of the things we've learned to kind of shift and adjust as we go. We've been working for the last several months on trying to finalize an MOU with the Housing Authority regarding handling evictions, because while the program has been overall really successful, it's still a very large program, and with any housing program, you have to have a plan in place for certain things, evictions being one of them, because there have been instances where, we need to explore going down that path. Also looking at, is there a way to maybe do property management functions differently? Again, housing is a new adventure for behavioral health being such a key partner in that. Usually we contract out for those things, but looking at that. And then also the Housing Authority is also interested in exploring rent for the Nancy Dodd Community Center. So we're having conversations with them, and then again, the long-term sustainability of the program.
But yeah, what do you mean rent? So who's utilizing it now? Or?
We are Housing Authority has an office at the location, but then the Nancy Dodd Community Center is really where all the services for the residents out in the community. It's the heart of the community and has always been the plan to have the provision of services out of the community center.
So who would pay rent?
Yeah, the Housing Authority, the topic has come up that they are asking for behavioral health to pay rent for use of the community center. So with that, thank you. And here's a picture from the event that y'all were at. Thank you for joining us for that. And we are all here and happy to answer any questions you have.
Great.
Awesome, thank you so much for the presentation and again for all of the work. Let's open it up to public comment first, and then we can bring it to the supervisors. We do have a handful of attendees with us who are with us on Zoom, who've been part of this program for a long time. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment on this presentation? Either in the room or on Zoom, you can raise your hand. I'm not seeing anyone. So we'll bring it back to Supervisor Alejo for comment questions.
Yeah, I just had a few questions. First of all, I was very impressed. Obviously, thank you for doing that 1-year anniversary celebration and for having one of the families there share their story. Because just for me, hearing that one success story of going through hardship and being in a really dangerous place, the family to now being in a completely dramatically improved situation, for me that was inspiring. And I even went to shake their hand to say that for me that's what it's all about. It motivates me to support this work. We're not going to solve homelessness overnight, but one life at a time, one family at a time, one household at a time, over many, really makes a tremendous difference. So I really appreciated that those heartfelt stories and that they were willing to share with us that day. But just by way of background, I wasn't too familiar with Pueblo del Mar. Who were they, and what happened that caused this opportunity to open up with this new BH funding?
Well, I can say Roxanne actually, when we were exploring applying for the BHBH grant and things really did introduce, for lack of a better term, behavioral health and connect more us with Zuleika, because the Pueblo del Mar, from my understanding, community out there was really being underutilized. And so looking at that opportunity to more fully utilize the space, as referenced in the presentation, there was also a deed restriction that it had to be used for recovery housing. This is clearly recovery housing. I also do know, and I don't know if, Anna, I know you were out and involved in Pueblo del Mar, so I don't know if there's anything that you want to add.
Was it run by a nonprofit before, or was it already a housing authority units, or just for background? I didn't know how the transition happened. That it was underutilized, but provided opportunity with this grant funding to renovate them and use them for a slightly different purpose.
Pueblo del Mar was founded back in 1998. It was part of the four-door reuse plan. The federal government came in and Housing Authority got that property, and Pueblo del Mar is their name. That's their name for the property. It still is their name for the property. Sun Street Centers was part of fundraising to build the community center. And Century Centers ran that program through HUD funding, through behavioral health funding, and through social services, Department of Social Services funding for 25 years. And sometime around COVID, the occupancy levels got so low for multiple reasons that HUD pulled the funding from the Housing Authority. And therefore, without that funding, the program shut down. And behavioral health applied for the state grant that we have today, so it was closed for 2 years and then reopened.
Wow, what a tragedy for 2 years not to be utilized. Obviously, housing needs to be maintained, so that always gets factored into the rents and the housing plan. But going to the future funding, obviously we got funding till April 2027. Since this original grant became available, has there been other cycles of funding, including like in this year's budget that just got approved in June? Is there advocacy from behavioral health offices around the state to say, we did good with this funding, but you always got to start the advocacy a year, 2, 3 years ahead, so that when this ends, you got some reassurance that the next cycle funding is going to be there to keep these folks housed, or new families that come into this housing to be served.
Right, so that's the consideration for now is, right, we figured out how to get this going, and now we're figuring out what's the plan to sustain it. And I did see Roxanne had her hand up also.
Yeah, and I just want to say, as part of this, what are the ideas? Obviously, utilizing our legislative program to advocate for this, because this is our first, so thank you for doing this, because as you said, it's a new area for behavioral health to go into the housing, but housing comes with a lot of other issues. Sometimes when you don't get the ideal tenant in a program, finding ways you have to follow the eviction process that requires legal paperwork, legal process, lawyers. So these are things that you don't really anticipate when the grant writer is submitting the plan for the funding. But obviously, I would say that should be part of it, because I wouldn't want to see these units closed down in 2027. It's imperative that we're able to inform our legislators that we do have a program here, but continued funding is critical to maintain it and to serve more of the residents, especially this category is the folks that Governor Newsom and the legislature always talk about, those who have serious mental health or substance abuse. I think we need more of these units throughout the county because it has that built-in wraparound support once you get into the units.
And if I may, Supervisor Alejo, so the reason why Monterey got $11.3 million, that was actually a predetermined allocation based on the available funding. So it's allocated and earmarked for Monterey. So we just submitted the application. So that's how we ended up with $11.3 million.
Okay. So every county got their, based on population?
It was a formula
point in time count?
there was a formula that baseline was $1 million for every county. And then there was a 2011 realignment funding plus a point in count formula that took that into consideration that determined what each county would get.
Yeah, but just another reminder how critical a point in time count is to be accurate, right? Because all the funding formulas are tied to it. Okay, but I was wondering, since this funding became available, if there's been any, but it sounds like there hasn't, right? So we got work to do to try to get additional funding for the future years. Those are my questions. And care court, you said that one person may be coming there, or okay, that's still to be determined.
In process.
I think it's scheduled this week.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Those are all my questions, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you. I'll go to Roxanne, who has her hand raised as well. Maybe with additional answers.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in that one of the contributing factors to the closure of Pueblo Del Mar was it was really underfunded to begin with, and one of the issues is that there wasn't any money for capital improvements that needed to be done to the units, which is why they sat empty for such a long time. So when behavioral health got the notification that they were going to receive the BHBH grant, it made perfect sense for them to essentially reestablish Pueblo Del Mar under this new model of having deep involvement with behavioral health to ensure that it does get filled and the units get updated and we get the project back online.
Thank you, Roxanne, for that, I think. And Pueblo Del Mar, as for Century Centers and the Nancy Dodd Center and the history, I think it is important to retain that history because it is such a critical part of what allowed that housing to be protected for this purpose. Originally, the champions that fought so hard to raise the money and to fight to have recovery be included as a priority purpose for this housing. For families who are being reunited, Pueblo del Mar really was a place that allowed families who've been separated for the purposes of recovery or who then came out of recovery to be reunited with their children. It was like a really incredibly special place for many years, and that was only because of the work and the passion of so many, and so to be able to continue to acknowledge where that came from, I think really is important. And so I have some opinions about some of the thoughts about having to pay rent to utilize the Nancy Dodd Center. I'd love to be able to find the original documents and deed restrictions, knowing how much money went into trying to raise funds to get that building built in the first place, and trying to identify exactly who and where and how those agreements were put in place. I think there may be some differences of opinion about who and how and where that all came together originally. But putting that aside, I think the questions that I have really are more in regard to the bigger picture around the deed restrictions on this site. I know there was a 30-year timeline that was coming up for the housing authority on this property, where they were possibly able to no longer have to have this property deed restricted for affordable housing. Has that issue been resolved? Can you speak a little bit to that? Does this grant allow us to extend that deed restriction, and how long is that deed restriction now extended for?
The deed restriction is through, I don't know what month, but 2028. So it does seem like the funding time and when the deed restriction expires kind of coincide a little bit. So we're hopeful that we can continue providing services. The grant does not have to be it's not a deed restriction towards recovery housing. That's on the property. So the BHBH grant itself does not require recovery housing.
Sorry, no, I understand that the BHBH grant doesn't require, the property though had been originally restricted with McKinney-Vento land transfer, and so the housing authority was restricted to utilize this property for low-income housing, for affordable housing, for a period of time, and that timeline was coming to an end, which meant that the housing authority had some flexibility in terms of how they were going to be able to utilize this property potentially to generate revenue, to invest into other properties. Do we have any information, or is there anyone from the housing authority who can speak to that point? And I guess my question being that we're investing a lot into building a program, and if the housing, I guess I'm trying to understand what the housing authority's commitment is for the long-term commitment of this property. If we put money into rehabilitation of the property and we're putting money into building programmatic relationships that's dependent on having the physical housing available, what is our understanding of the commitment to have that physical housing available over the longer term?
That's a very on-point question Supervisor Askew, and it's, I don't know if we have any one from the Housing Authority available online. They did know that we were presenting today, and we did ask them to be available, but I don't see them as a panelist. I don't know if they joined in the public. Do we have a name? Do we have a name? Zulika?
There.
Anyway, I mean, I think it's a question, and we have not gotten, at least not to my awareness, a solid commitment after the deed restriction expires. We haven't heard what the Housing Authority intends. So we are also very interested to know as we're looking at the long-term viability for this program. Yeah.
If we have someone else in attendees, they're more than welcome to raise their hand. And
Yeah.
From a
Okay.
So we're
So
we're
it sounds
also
like that's
curious.
we don't know the answer to that question, and it's a question that is sort of outstanding. But from where I sit, and as we think about, if this was dollars that were dedicated or allocation for the county, and as we think about building out programmatic, programmatic models and sustainability for programmatic models, we definitely need the housing, we definitely need the programs. But knowing that when we're building out the programs, that the location of where we're building them out, that there's some assurances at least for what that looks like into the future is one of those key pieces that I think we're going to need to figure that piece out. And there's definitely, I think, some political points questions around that answer. So that's an outstanding one for me that I would love to, maybe we have some follow-up conversation about. Roxanne, did you have more to add in that?
Zulika's jumping on right now.
Zulika's jumping on. Okay, so we'll let Zulika jump on and we can maybe continue that conversation a little bit more. Another comment, question, factor, there's quite a bit of construction happening around this property. This is all on the former corridor, and the Sea Haven development that's been long in the works within the city of Marina is building out. It's taken 20 plus years to finally see that development move forward, but it is happening. And so I just wanted to ask some questions about the relationship between Clayton Del Mar, this program, Hope Village, and the new neighbors who are moving into this community. I think some of the reasons where we've seen success with transitional housing and homeless service programs, at least in Marina where we've been hosts to so many of them, is where we've had the opportunity to have the programs in existence in advance of the community building up around the program. And so having those relationships and having the solid leadership that's in place at the facility, be cognizant of those opportunities to bring neighbors in and to make sure that there is that positive neighborly building opportunities that are happening. Can you just speak a little bit to that and how that's going?
I can speak to it. I think we could do more to publicize. I mean, it's kind of interesting because we're a confidential community in some regard, right? Everybody there has some behavioral health issue. They are building right up, like backyard to backyard. And they are putting up some very tall wooden fences. The wooden fences are beautiful. They are. But they are putting up the fencing around it. I have heard that some of the residents, the new residents there, are surprised at the number of not just Hope Housing, but the number of treatment supported housing is kind of right next door. So I don't know what the answer would have been to that. I think we've had workshops, we've done, Marina, the city of Marina has been very open about all of these things. So I'm not really understand. Well, so some people are surprised. I don't know what we can do to get ahead of that a little bit, but we don't at this time have a relationship with Sea Haven, our behavioral health and partners.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's it's clearly a delicate one to navigate, but I do think that it's an important thing for us all to be thinking about. And finding the right ways to navigate. And there are some really great models in the community of other programs that have been navigating and laying out a really positive path for how to do so. And we also know that when we fail to do that kind of positive engagement and honest, open engagement, the repercussions can be pretty severe, and people can push back in pretty big negative ways. And I want to acknowledge how important it is with new people moving into a community that we do what we can to preserve the understanding that, hey, this is something that's here, and this is something that this community values, and this is why. And you now get to be a part of valuing and preserving these community priorities that we've had here on the former corridor for decades. And so that's part of our responsibility as behavioral health and as the stewards of this project moving forward. So just from where I sit, I find those as really important pieces of this project.
And I would add, Supervisor Askew, if I may, just that, we have done a lot of outreach to the city leadership. In Marina, they've been on tours of not only this program, but other programs that our partners here are operating in their city, and they are definitely in favor, and we have their full support. So I would add that as well.
No, that's great. So those are, I'm fairly familiar with the history of Pueblo del Mar. It was a phenomenal program with a lot of love and care that went into it, and really unfortunate the way that the funding changes caused, and I think it also happened, and no one mentioned this, but the way in which the challenges with our housing authority played out, I think also caused for some of the referral challenges and some of the neglect that occurred. And so when we were able to finally get Zulika in and finally get our housing authority stabilized, it was just enough things were too difficult to overcome at that point. But I am hopeful that we can work with the housing authority and find a way to preserve this property for this purpose into the future, recognizing that I do believe that the McKinney-Vento deed on this property is expiring. Deed restrictions on this property are coming to an end, and the housing authority is going to have some big decisions to make about what they do with this property moving forward. And whether we have that conversation with the housing authority with Zulika now, or whether we have that conversation elsewhere, but putting this significant investment that we're putting into building a program here, and knowing the need that our community has for this type of housing, it's clear to me that the pressure needs to be on maintaining these units and these beds for the purpose that we're building them out for currently into the future. So I'll see, was Zulika able to join us? Zulika, did you want to jump in at all and just comment on the HOPE, our HOPE Housing Marina program? Thank you so much. Zulika Boykin is our Housing Authority for Monterey County Director. We were really lucky to bring her in to the county at a time when our Housing Authority was in quite a bit of challenge, and she's done an incredible job of bringing some order back to the Housing Authority, but there remain a lot of challenges, and I think this particular property is one that we're gonna challenge you with, Zulika, to help us figure out how we can maintain some critical programming that we've made a lot of investments in. So we'll pass the floor to you for comment.
Yeah, I wanted to jump on because I wanted to hear the presentation. I had saw the PowerPoint that they put together. The property the partnership that we have with behavioral health, we still have a couple of issues to iron out, but I think everybody's really working hard on that to get those settled. I'm proud of the progress that's being made in the area. And I did hear you mention about Sea Haven residents, which was one of my concerns. How much outreach are we doing to really let them know what's going on? Because it's right in the middle of it, and they're building some more units to sell that'll really be adjacent to the property. So it's important that they know what type of program we're running there so that we don't get any backlash from the communities. Because normally, like you said, the property would have already been there before they kind of built around it. But the way that it looks is if they got all the new units, they sold them rented them, and then we have this property that's in the middle. And you're correct also that the deed restrictions will be playing out. I think they have like another year or so on there. I had to check the exact dates. And so when we went into this, we wanted to look at the sustainability and things of that nature before any type of, final resolution is made for the property. So we're still looking at all of that and just looking at how the partnership is working out and how we can maintain it with the funds that we do receive from property, because we still have upkeep and things that we have to do. And then also meet with the state to make sure that we're in compliance for all of the rules that are still existing. So all of that is kind of just a work in progress, but I am proud of the work that they've done so far, and that I hope that they continue that.
Great, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you more so for all of the work that you've done to get our housing authority back in functional order. We really appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Wendy. You're gonna make me blush. I'm just trying to do the best I can and make sure. I really want the housing authority to be committed to all areas of need that's in the county, because we are the county agency and we're one of the largest agencies in the county. So we really need to make sure that our footprint is seen and that we're doing the services the community really needs, so that we can continue to be an asset.
Great, thank you. All right. Well, those were all of my questions. Supervisor Alejo, one final opportunity for comments, questions.
No, none, but you had something you wanted to add, right?
I was just going to add that we have been a voting site at Nancy Dodd Center for many years, and that was a great way of reaching out to our community members. Almost everybody that came to vote was surprised we were there and didn't know anything about us, and that's always been a really positive outreach.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you. And I'll just, credit where credit's due. Anna and Century Centers and the team that has been present, raising private dollars to support the families in the program, to keep Nancy Dodd Center operational and beautiful and well kept. Many opportunities I've had to be out there with those families, and it really has been a life-changing space for the families. I do understand that there are reasons why we have to do, housing first, and but the period of time when it was able to be sober living and that safe sanctuary for families who were coming out, who were in recovery, reuniting with families was a period of history that I think will forever grace and create something in the air around that property that will make it incredibly special. So to Anna and your team and all of the donors who committed so much of their lives and their livelihood and their talent and their treasure to Pueblo Del Mar and that property, I don't know that there's ever any way we can appreciate and thank and honor the legacy that went into what was created there. So just want to take a moment and say thank you before we move on. Okay, with that, we can, I guess, we're not taking action on this item, but we can, there's some sort of follow-up things for our team to work on.
Good job,
we
Rita.
can,
Thank you.
well, Supervisor Alejo and myself are available in all of the ways that we always are, whether it's legislative or political power or whatever you need, so please let us know, and we're happy to engage.
And Supervisor, ask you, could you just provide that direction about future BHBH funding for Nicole Hollingsworth now? Just one of those things to look out for in the next legislative session, just as a follow-up to making sure the funding could continue for this program.
Yes, let's make that a specific direction for follow-up and make sure that she has this on her radar specifically to be looking at for both funding as well as some funding for the behavioral health portion of the program, as well as I think looking to help us work with the Housing Authority on clarity around how we can ensure that this housing continues to remain available for our homeless community and for recovery, for spaces, for purposes of recovery. Yeah, thank you. Okay, great.
All right, thank you.
With consensus, we'll give that direction, and we can move on to item number 3, which is to receive a presentation on services offered by ECHO, Fair Housing. We have a presentation by Christina Soto, the Executive Director.
Sorry, I didn't unmute myself. Fernando's going to go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint for us. While he's doing that, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Christina Soto, and I'm the Executive Director for the Eden Council for Hope and Opportunity, also known as Echo Housing. And I just wanted to thank you, first of all, for letting us have this opportunity to present on our services. I took over as the Executive Director back in July of 2023, and I have really been trying to get Echo's name out in the communities that we serve, specifically in Monterey County. So I'm going to present on the first slide, and then I'm going to have Echo's housing counselor, Fernando Galindo, do the rest of the presentation. Fernando does reside in Marina, so he is local. And we also have some great news about an office space that we just acquired as well. So a little bit about Echo. Echo Housing was founded in 1964 and incorporated in 1965 by a group of volunteers who were trying to help with housing rights for tenants in the city of Hayward. Echo received its first grant in 1966 for $2,000 from the San Francisco Foundation. And this group of volunteers put in a hotline telephone in their home, and they would answer phone calls regarding any type of fair housing questions that may arise in the area. I'm happy to say that Echo Housing just had its 60th anniversary gala on August 15th. Echo is one of the oldest fair housing agencies in the entire nation. I believe there's 2 more that are older than us. We are also a HUD certified housing counseling agency. We were just monitored by HUD back in April, and we received another 3-year certification before we have to get monitored again. I also wanted to let you know that even though we started out as a fair housing entity, we now provide full services around not just fair housing services, but also tenant rights for both the property owners and for tenants. We also provide workshops that Fernando's going to talk about. We also administer rent stabilization, just cause, and anti-harassment ordinances in Larkspur, Contra Costa County, and Alameda County. And we just received a brand new contract to do fair housing and tenant property services in the city of Davis. Last year for Monterey County, Echo was able to service 145 families, and that equated to over 435 individuals for just unincorporated Monterey County. I also wanted to let you know that last year, we're a tiny agency, so there's only 9 of us. 6 people are counselors. And from those 6 counselors throughout all our programs, we were able to assist over 9,400 individuals, which equaled close to 4,000 families. So as I tell everybody, we are tiny, but we are mighty. So I'm now going to hand it over to Fernando, who will do the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fernando Galindo, and I am the housing counselor for the Monterey County area. I'm going to talk about a few of our services. The first one is fair housing, which we provide information and counseling to fair housing inquiries whenever somebody does report, say, a discrimination inquiry. We can fully investigate that. We conduct site investigations in response to reports of housing discrimination complaints. We also conduct rental housing audits to determine degree of housing discriminations. We provide education seminars for members of the housing industry, for both managers, owners, realtors, tenants, anybody who wants to know more about their fair housing rights are welcome to attend. We do service the counties of Alameda, Contra Costa, Monterey, and Yolo. And Salinas is now going to be more or less my new home. We do have office space that we are now receiving through the United Way. over at their building on the address is 232 Monterey Street in Salinas. So we will be there between 3 to 4 times a week, putting in at least 20 hours a week to provide face-to-face services. Instead of people just having to call and speak to myself, they'll be able to see us, be able to see me in person, where we can sit down and talk about some of these difficult or even traumatic experiences that they may be going through. Let's see here. We also provide tenant and property owner mediation. We do have HUD certified counselors to provide mediation services in respects to tenant and property owner disputes. We also provide information to tenants and property owners on their housing rights and responsibilities, providing alternative dispute resolutions to a variety of tenant and landlord conflicts. Primary objective of the program is to build awareness of housing laws and to preserve housing. We would like to keep people that are housed. We want to educate people on good relations between tenant and landlords, and just to make sure that they know of their rights and responsibilities so that everybody plays right. You know, that's what we're trying to aim for, is that everybody understands their part in this. But we do know that certain times it gets out of hand. And that's where we really try to step in, and where the mediation can come into play to help keep people on a strict contract in a way. We can't enforce that necessarily, but it's something that we have the landlords and the tenants sign so that they can have like a rule that they're gonna stay on going forward, and that usually works in terms of the tenant landlord disputes. We also provide a home buyer's education. Our next home buyer's education is on November 15th from 9 to 5, and you can register at our website online. This 8-hour first-time home buyers workshop is on credit, budgeting, government-assisted programs, conventional financing, purchase and lending procedures, inspections, closing cost, fair housing, and fair lending. Completion of this workshop grants participants the HUD certificate needed for affordable home ownership. Programs include down payment assistance, but with this is just an excellent way for people to learn what it is to really own a home. The ins and the outs, the budgeting, the planning for maintenance. This is what you're going to learn at our home buyers education. And then we have our pre-purchase counseling. So what we do is we assist potential home buyers by providing one-on-one counseling on credit repair, budgeting, and predatory lending. We can help identify home buying opportunities, including mortgage financing, and determine eligibility for local, state, and federal affordable homeownership programs. These are also going to help, like I said, with the knowledge of finding the proper lender, learning the proper loans that may come into play to better, prepare you for that next step of finding a home, signing your new mortgage, and then some. Now, I cover Monterey County, but there is we have our housing programs coordinator, Raquel, who's also available at this number that we have on the screen. It is 831-566-0824. You can reach me at fernando@ecofairhousing.org. And at this time, does anybody have any questions for us?
Thank you, Christina and Fernando, for the presentation and for your work in the community. And I'm glad to see you, neighbor Fernando and Marina. I feel like we just get to celebrate Marina today. And Salinas, of course, always, but, so I'll take it over to, well, let's go to public comment first. Is there anyone for public comment on this item today?
No
with
hands
us?
on Zoom.
Okay, no hands on Zoom. Is there anyone in the audience for public comment? I'm not seeing anyone approaching the dais, so we'll bring it back to close public comment and bring it back to Supervisor Alejo for any questions or comments.
Yeah, just a couple of questions as I have brought this up in the past. I appreciate the presentation first of all, but just in terms of the numbers of how many people were served in Monterey County, you mentioned 400 and I think just over 400 in unincorporated Monterey County. What's the overall number? If you provide any services, are you only serving the unincorporated, or do you get calls from the cities as well? And how many within the incorporated cities?
So we offer services in all of Monterey County. So we hold contracts with the city of Salinas, the city of Seaside, the city of Monterey, and then unincorporated Monterey County. So I'm going through my paper right now just to find you that number, to let you know how many overall we serve in the entire county.
Great, and while you find that information, the second question just has to go where you make, I know most of your services is by phone, but I am glad to see a change in where you provide in-person service, because before I think it was in Pacific Grove, and I brought up, was that the best place to provide services? I think Seaside and King City are definitely better places where I think the need is, certainly Salinas as well, but I think at least you have one that's not too far away from the biggest city in the Monterey Bay, but that you're also going some days in person, or one day in person, in South Monterey County as well. So I wanted to applaud that adjustment since the last time we've talked about these services, and so that's very much appreciated.
So Supervisor Alejo, the number of individuals that we served in 24 and 25 throughout Monterey County was 1,317.
Great. That's a significant number. Yeah, thank you for that.
You're welcome. And the other thing too is I would invite any board of supervisor that would like us to do a tenant rights workshop in your district. We currently are doing those with the city of Salinas. So we have one in Supervisor Sandoval's area, Councilmember Sandoval's area on October 2nd at North Salinas High School. We have another presentation going on October 30th in District 4 with Gloria De La Rosa. We are going to be scheduling one in District 6. So we also invite you as well, if you would like us to go out and hold a workshop for tenant rights or fair housing, please let us know, and we'll be more than happy to do that. We are doing them in a hybrid model, which means Fernando is there in person, but we do offer it in Zoom for those that cannot attend for whatever reason but still want to listen in. We are offering those as well.
Yeah, thank you for that. I just know my experience in landlord tenant rights workshops, as I worked previously with CRLA, Legal Aid, and then at the Self-Help Center here in Monterey County Superior Court. Most people don't even think about landlord tenant rights or their rights until they're in a situation, right? Until they're not getting their security deposit returned, or until they get an eviction notice, or there's some issue going on with their landlord, or vice versa. Property owners would come to the court when they couldn't afford their attorneys, also looking for legal guidance, as the unlawful detainer process is it's a very strict and quick one. So I know sometimes there is challenges. You do a workshop, not everybody thinks about coming because it's out of mind, right, up until they find themselves in a situation. So I recognize that, but I appreciate the outreach and the workshops being held here in Salinas and the offer to do them elsewhere as well. So when I come to that moment, well, I'll reach out at the right time. So thank you for conducting those within Salinas.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Shirley.
Thank you. And I guess just to that point, I think it's a great offer to have the information available. And you're right that people don't normally think about the issue until they're face to face with it. And at that point, sometimes it really is you're in crisis and not necessarily don't have as many options as maybe it would be you want to have. And just as an interesting point of reference, I had a chance to sit down with a group of residents in Salinas and just sort of listen to some of the stories and challenges that they were facing. And for so many of the stories that they shared, the housing situations that they were in were long time rentals where they'd been tenants of the same property for 10, 20, for decades, generations of families living, having long-term rentals. And so the situations and the struggles that they were having, or the challenges that they faced, where they didn't want to raise issues or were afraid to raise issues, were very different than the struggles that I remember growing up with, where we moved every year, but and having to negotiate. Remember my parents negotiating leases, or when an issue would come up and the landlord would show up at the house and say, oh, the rent is being raised, whatever amount. And rather than getting into it, or rather than having, my mom and dad would just very quietly, we'd pack up and, you would just move again. And that happened every year. And so whereas I think the situations that are so many tenants and renters face are so different, whether it's a long-term situation where someone is, has that long-term relationship with a landlord, or in other cases where, my parents were just so afraid to have any kind of conflict, and the solution was just simply you pack up and you move and you find the next property or the next place to, but for us that meant changing schools all the time. That meant, the cost of having to start over again and again, which was also, had a whole different set of challenges. So I think having the information available is so important, and so I'd love to take you up on that and look forward to finding a time. And just to clarify, the contract that the county has is for unincorporated parts of the county, and the cities who also contracted, you said the city of Salinas, and which other cities specifically?
Seaside.
Seaside.
Monterey.
So Monterey, Seaside, Salinas are the cities who are contracted. So residents who don't live in those cities or in the unincorporated community, are they also able to contact you for assistance, or and you're able to provide that assistance?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I also just want to say that we were able to this year get some monies in our contract to contract with a lawyer who, if there's any legal questions, or maybe they just need a letter done, and CRLA is very impacted. We just met with them last week and we talked about how we could maybe refer people and kind of work together more. So we have that little pot of money in all the cities except for Seaside. We actually, this is our second year at the city of Monterey doing that. We also assisted the city of Monterey with creating their rental assistance program. They're using our model. Anastasia, we met with her and they're using our model, and we actually also do case conferencing with them on people that are needing rental assistance. So we really want to be able to be there for the community and help them out in any way that we can.
Great. Well, thank you so much again for the presentation and for the work and for the service to community, and for just taking one more bit of stressor off of situations that are already so incredibly stressful for people and families. Having stable housing is, as an adult, I find it to be like literally the single biggest thing that I come back to is when other things in life are stressful, I'm like, but you know what? Like, I don't have that thing to worry about, and I don't know that I ever would have identified that as being as significant as I do now as a parent. So thank you for providing that support. All right.
And Madam Chair,
Go ahead.
just to share, as I heard their statistics with their team, when I worked at the Self-Help Center, between me as a staff attorney for the Self-Help Center, and a family law facilitator, one law clerk, a paralegal, and the clerk, we counted every brief service we did at the courthouse in Monterey mostly, but we'd also go to Kingside. We would have 25,000 visits a year. 25 interactions, so it was a constant. The need is great out there, and I know the courthouse would probably have many more people going there if they didn't have you helping supplement as another resource for our community residents when they have legal questions or they're trying to figure out where they get certain documents or how to do certain things. So appreciate your work and service to our community.
Thank you. Thank you. For sure. And thank you, Roxanne, for bringing the presentation forward to us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Roxanne.
All right. I think that was our last item on the agenda for today. I mentioned, I think at the beginning of the meeting, just that it was great to get the County of Monterey Health Department Public Administrator, Public Guardian, Conservator quarterly newsletter, issue number 1. So we got a little bit of information about that, and I know we've requested a presentation on that. So I think that'll be coming up at a future meeting here. Was there anything else, Supervisor Lara, that you wanted to have presented or request for an upcoming meeting?
Not at this time.
Not at this time.
Except,
okay.
except the presentation, which we already mentioned earlier by personnel.
Okay. Great. And then I think that the other presentation that would be possibly helpful for us to have here, and maybe even to the full Board of Supervisors, would be just a presentation on the impact of HR1 as it relates to the Central California Alliance for Health and our enrollment sort of projections. We did get an update at our last Alliance for Health meeting. I'll bring just some staff reports to our board to share tomorrow, just for FYI. But I'm thinking I'll check with the chair of the board to see if there's time on a future meeting. But if we can't get that on a board meeting, let's see if we can get that on one of our next committee meetings here, just so that we have it presented. But there are some pretty specific impacts that we're looking at for enrollment and eligibility, declining medical eligibility applications that we're already seeing that I think we're going to want to keep our eyes on. So with that, we can adjourn this meeting, and we'll see everyone at our next meeting whenever. Next meeting is scheduled for October 20th, 2025. We'll see people then. Thank you.
All right,
And thank you again,
everybody.
Roxanne, for getting the meeting together. I appreciate you.
Have
a good one.
Thank you for doing that. Appreciate it very much.
Right on.
Thank you, everybody.
You check the legality though, too.
Yeah, even in the chamber, we have designated.
Yeah, well, this is not a regular board meeting
Yeah,
though.
it is a regular.
So, I mean, it is a subcommittee, but it is not,
We have designated areas, and
I'll talk to you, yeah.
the public cannot be obstructing the speakers and not be standing right in front of the dais.
Yeah, so.
and that's legal statute. That's the case law.
There are some reasonable rules that you can apply here, and you're not being asked to leave, no one's being asked to leave.
Well,
But
although
there
the
are
security was here constantly, and he's here now.
Well, he's entitled to be here, because anybody could be
Oh,
here
yeah.
too.
No, but I mean, it's a little intimidating.
Well, I think that we're trying, I think you and I were able to talk it out and, move it off to the side, and I think
Right.
that's appropriate. But I think that, this is a regular meeting room now. Yeah, and a lot has changed, and, getting used to where things should be and where they, where media can go, it's
Right.
something that I'll become more familiar with. But I think that at the same time, this area is an area that's usually off limits to anyone. I don't stand here.
Okay.
So, and we all stand back there.
See, and also then I guess we should do something about doing a camera so that it's just not the back of their head, because I have whatever viewers, that are deaf. And so they have to read lips, or else they don't know
Right,
what the hell's
right.
happening.
Well, make a recommendation at public comment next time on, things that you think would be improvements, that would be appreciated. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and at the same time, I think, please make sure you also use your opportunity to speak.
Well, I mean, I know one of the reasons is because there might be confidentiality or something, there might be closed session, something, documents. But there's nothing of that. The only thing you got is the agenda. I'm not blocking anybody's view. It's not, there was accommodation that could have been made, but since he's such a...
Well, no, the thing is this, in my opinion, we don't need to treat you differently from others. We need to treat media all the same. And at the same time, you know, while you may not be a risk of harm, someone else might be.
Right, well, and I
So
understand
I
policy.
think we need to, you know, this is the area where, you know, there's, you know, I don't even stand here.
And
I go-
honestly,
I go over
if
there.
that whole 2 benches wouldn't have been full, I wouldn't have needed to
I
back
hear
out that
you.
far either, you know?
I hear you, so, you know.
So I wasn't trying to get anybody's
No,
way.
I understand why you came here. I understand, and so because I was here and watching, and you talked about which side can you stand here, so I hear you, and, you know, and so I hear you.
Well, then I'm amenable. It's just I think he took it overboard. That's, you know.
Well, I hear you. So you and I understand that at this point, right now, this is not an area apparently traditionally for media or really much at all in this county. That's how it's done. And I think, you know, I appreciate even the fact that, you know, even members of the county are way back here. You know, they're pretty far away. So this is how we just have to acknowledge that. Where in the end is the place for media? You know,
Well,
hopefully
certainly not in the
find
back
out.
of the room, yeah.
I'm not done, yeah, I understand. I'm not, you know, I'm not saying that.
I mean, and when you look at KSBW, KION, they have free float. I mean, and nobody ever objects.
Okay, well, I'll take that in and see, you know, see what has to happen, you know? So, okay,
All right.
I appreciate
Well, thank
that.
you.
You're welcome.
Sorry for causing disturbance.